First tonight to outgoing British Prime Minister Boris Johnson. He was given a standing ovation at his final Prime Minister's questions as he claimed his mission was largely accomplished and took one last swipe at the members of Parliament who ousted him. He launched a fresh attack on opposition leader Sir Keir Starmer and seized the opportunity to hit out at his possible successor Rishi Sunak as he told MPs, "Hasta la vista, baby." It came less than 2 weeks after he was forced to announce his resignation following a revolt against his leadership from within his Conservative ranks. Mr. Johnson said he wasn't following the Tory party's leadership contest, and in his closing remarks he gave advice to whoever will succeed him.
I'm not following this thing particularly closely, but my impression is that there's been quite a lot of debate already, and I think the public are having an ample opportunity to view the talent, Mr. Speaker, that any one of which, as I say before, like some household detergent, would wipe the floor. I want to use the last few seconds, Mr. Speaker, to give some words of advice to my successor, whoever he or she may be. Number one, stay close to the Americans, stick up for the Ukrainians, stick up for freedom and democracy everywhere. Cut taxes and deregulate wherever you can to make this the greatest place to live and invest, which it is. I love the Treasury, but remember that if we'd always listened to the Treasury, we wouldn't have built the M25 or the Channel Tunnel. Focus on the road ahead. Focus on the road ahead, but always remember to check the rear view mirror. And remember, above all, it's not Twitter that counts. It's the people that sent us here. And yes, the last few years have been the greatest privilege of my life. And it's true that I helped to get the biggest Tory majority for 40 years and a huge realignment in UK politics, Mr. Speaker. We've transformed our democracy and restored our national independence, as my right honourable friend says. I've helped to get this country through a pandemic and helped save another country from barbarism. And frankly, that's enough to be going on with. Mission largely accomplished. For now, I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank all the wonderful staff of the House of Commons. I want to thank all my friends and colleagues. I want to thank my right honourable friend opposite, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank everybody here, and hasta la vista, baby. Thank you.
The inimitable Boris Johnson. And a short while ago, the two candidates vying to succeed Boris Johnson were revealed. Conservative members of Parliament chose former Treasury Chief Rishi Sunak and Foreign Secretary Liz Truss as the two finalists in an election to replace Mr. Johnson as party leader and Prime Minister. The pair came first and second in a vote that took place this afternoon. Trade Minister Penny Mordaunt came third and was eliminated. Well, joining us now from London is Arise Chief Correspondent John Cookson. Good to see you, John, especially on a day like this, quite extraordinary. The final vote for MPs in the Tory party in the search for a new leader and Prime Minister for Britain. So it's gone from a wide open field to a two-horse race.
Hey, Charles, well, quite a day in Westminster. That speech of Boris Johnson, a real rebel rouser, and I can't think of any other British Prime Minister who's ever signed off "Hasta la vista, baby," bringing up the words of Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator 2, I think, indicating perhaps he might come back. And indeed, there are 2,000 signatures to a petition from Conservative Party members tonight, calling for Boris Johnson to be added to the list of the two candidates for Prime Minister. Now, I don't think that's going anywhere, but that's quite a thing. And I'm just wondering how many of those MPs in the House of Commons today have buyer's remorse. And the irony of the cheering, Charles. I mean, these were the guys who only a week or so ago were stabbing him in the back and telling him to go, including the Chancellor of the Exchequer, who was sitting right next to him. So extraordinary times in Westminster, and Boris Johnson signing off with a bang. He did get a standing ovation and long applause at the end, but only from the Conservatives. not the opposition Labour Party and Scottish Nationalists and Lib Dems. And interestingly, former Prime Minister Theresa May refused to clap applause for Boris Johnson as he left the chamber for the last time at this batch box answering Prime Minister's questions. Charles.
Well, so now we look forward, John, to the two candidates who have come through from that wide open field. How much has this battle for the leadership of the Conservative Party been a closely fought, bruising contest with lots of fierce attacks between the rival candidates?
You're absolutely right. It's been called, the Conservative colour is blue, okay, so it's been called blue on blue attacks in the TV debates, and indeed they called a halt to TV debates earlier this week, although there will be another one with the BBC, I think, in a couple of days, as we narrow down from 11 candidates down to 2, Rishi Sunak, the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, and Liz Truss, currently the Foreign Secretary. But it has, of course, been damaging, I think, to the party as they, in the sort of knockabout debates that have taken place, and they've had a go at each other. And we're now down to the final 2. It now goes to a vote of the Conservative Party members. We're not quite sure how many members there are. It's around 175, 180,000. And they'll be subject to hustings in the next month, and the ballot papers will go out the first week of August, and we should have a result by September the 5th. So a long, hot August for those two potential party leaders and potential prime ministers. Sunak, on the Liberal side of things, a very experienced hand, of course, in economics, and one might argue that Sunak is the candidate and should be the candidate for helping Britain avoid recession. And interestingly, the 9.4% inflation rate, a record for the last 40 years today. So it needs someone who knows something about economics at the tiller, one might argue. However, as we know, he's a slightly tarnished character, and he'll need to sort out his tax affairs, which have raised question marks in the past. As for Liz Truss, she's held many ministerial posts. As I say, currently Foreign Secretary. She's promising to cut taxes, but without telling people how the government will scale back government spending to account for reduced taxes, nor will she say how much those taxes will be reduced, and how are you going to replace the money that taxes would have brought in. So she's got some work to do on the tax front. So the smart money tonight is on Rishi Sunak winning the contest. Just to go over the figures, tonight Sunak got 137 votes from MPs, Truss got 113, and Penny Mordaunt, who lost out today, got 105. I mean, it was a tight race for second place between Truss and Mordaunt, but it was Truss who came in second. So Sunak and Truss go forward as with the so-called golden ticket, and the votes for Conservative Party members, which will take place next month. Charles.
And John, in other regards, I mean, this is a leadership race that is undoubtedly very diverse, isn't it? Particularly in the Conservative Party in terms of heritage and gender. I mean, the UK could be getting its first non-white prime minister. How is that likely to resonate with the wider British public?
That's a very good point you made there, Charles. And as we know, the Conservative Party is, by its very nature, to the right of things. Liz Truss, an experienced minister in the Johnson government, and she will appeal to the right wing of the party. Now, whether an Asian prime minister is something that Conservative Party members can accept, my sense of it is, in 2022, they can, Charles. I think the world is changing so much. Britain is very much a diverse community now. I think the figures are something like for London, London communities are 40% Asian and black at the moment, and in the metropolitan areas, diversity is something which figures very highly in all communities. There's a new generation of Conservative Party members coming through, and Conservatives were, of course, the first to appoint a woman Prime Minister, and there's been another one since then. So I think that the Conservative Party could vote in an Asian as a Prime Minister, which would be a huge leap forward in the sort of social structure of the UK.
John, I have to say that was very educational and enormously interesting. John Cookson, Arise chief correspondent, talking to me there from London.